Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Curious podcast, where I am once again joined by my co-host, my wonderful little brother, my co-founder of last night's game, Scott. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, my favorite sister and only sister and co-founder.
Well, you know, this whole sibling working together thing. So far, we haven't killed each other, so I think that's a testament to us
That's a positive. So we keep
in our
ride that
family
momentum.
values. Yeah, and we have such good family values that's why we're here. Well, let's not waste the people's time. Let's talk about college football traditions. So this was something that we kind of talk about here and there throughout the season, but we always like to make sure people are prepared if you're going to a game. And one of the things is obviously the college football traditions. Some of them are very, very unique. Everyone probably has tailgating and all those kinds of things. But some of these have very unique things that you should probably be prepared for if you're going to a game. So let's start off. If we're headed to a game, we're going to need to know about the pregame traditions. Scott, I'm going to let you take it away on the first one.
All right, the first one is one of my favorites and one I wish I knew when I attended a game at Washington up in Seattle. I went to a game, had no idea this was a thing, and had I, had this podcast to listen to, I would have known. It's called sailgating. The stadium up in Seattle for the Washington Huskies is right off the water, and instead of tailgating in a parking lot or a grass field, they tailgate on boats. They dock up boats next to each other, hang out, kind of like Havasu spring break, and have a classy tailgate.
Well, I can say that Havasu spring break, not classy. So kudos to you, Washington fans, for turning that into a classy occasion. Do I remember correctly that there was like a floating Wendy's for a while for the sailgating?
I've had friends that have done it, and they do have a floating Wendy's that will float over and deliver Wendy's to you, which is just an incredible addition.
Shout out to Wendy's, and I think that's probably something that would prefer at the end of the game, but that's just me.
You got to build a base.
That's a very true point, valid point. You can't sailgate without a base. You're very right. Okay, so we're going sailgating, and then if we're going to go a little further, I guess, south, let's talk about Ralphie the Bison. So Ralphie is the mascot for Colorado, and since Colorado was 1 in 10 last year, no one probably saw Ralphie on TV. But this year, with Coach Prime being the hottest topic in the world of sports, I'm pretty sure Ralphie's getting some screen time. So let's talk a little bit about Ralphie.
I mean, no one's had more of a glow up than Ralphie this year, right? Mm-hmm. Coming off a 1-win season. Now the entire world is focused on Colorado. Ralphie is the buffalo that runs on the field with their handlers before the game. It's a big deal for all the students. Ralphie gets going full speed. It's kind of impressive to watch the handlers try to keep up.
It's like track athletes.
They have to be very athletic. And fun fact, this Ralphie was actually a COVID baby. It's born in 2020. So it's got a lot of energy. It was cooped up, in lockdown. So it's ready to party, ready to win.
A 3-year-old bison. I don't know, but a 3-year-old child, if you let them go pregame. And exactly. They do this between every quarter, if I remember correctly. If you let loose a toddler, let alone a bison-sized toddler, all hell will break loose. I wonder how many times Ralphie has jumped into the stands.
Maybe Ralphie wanted a beer at some point.
There's a couple teams that have live mascots. Most of them are dogs.
Yes.
But do they still have Mike the Tiger at LSU? But he's in a cage.
Mike the Tiger's living life large. Yes, he's in a cage. Okay. And then, I don't know if you saw this weekend. Uga, the Georgia mascot, and the Gamecock almost got in a little confrontation.
Oh.
The Gamecock snapped at Uga, and his reflexes are impeccable, so he moved out of the way.
So Uga is a bulldog. The South Carolina Gamecock is what? Some sort of chicken rooster thing?
I don't want to offend anyone in South Carolina. I think it's some kind of rooster.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're from the West Coast. We don't have things like that, so I don't know.
No.
I'm a Sun Devil. I mean, that's not even a real thing. Come on.
No, it's not, and they're not any good either. So we don't have to worry about that.
Well, hey, mind your manners, mister. I also went to school that has a leprechaun. So speaking of made up characters, so there you go.
True. Very
I
true.
really have 0 good references for mascots. So, one tradition, we have family who are big Ohio State fans, and the one I always think about is Ohio State, the script, the Ohio script. After the band performs at halftime, a senior dots the I. Now, I did a little research on this because I knew it was a senior and I thought it was a tuba player.
Hmm.
Turns out it's not. So, please, if you're a music person, don't make fun of me, but it's a sousaphone, which is a smaller version. It's in the tuba family, but a smaller version made for like a standing or marching. So it's much easier to carry than an actual tuba. So there you go, music knowledge for the day. So basically, a senior salsa player dots the I in Ohio that's written in script at the end of the band performance at halftime. And I'm pretty sure, having never been to an Ohio State game, but having Ohio State fans as family, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of yelling OH
IO.
to people as you wander around outside the game. So if you're going to one of those games, be prepared for that.
Do they let anybody else do it, or it has to be a band member? Do you know? Like, has there
They
been
have let other
celebrity?
people do it. It looks like Bob Hope and Jack Nicklaus, the golfer, have dotted the I. I don't
Okay,
know if
so
they were also
you got to be a
carrying.
pretty big deal.
I think so. I mean, I don't know if you're carrying a tuba, and I'll be honest, I don't know. They have an affiliation with the university, but I'm not sure if they're alumni. So those of
So
you
yeah,
who are Ohio State Buckeye fans, let us know. I'd love to hear from someone who actually dotted the I because that seems like the coolest thing ever.
I'm sure they're listening. Someone who has, absolutely.
I mean, we should have stuck with our musical instrument careers. I think you played the tuba or something at one point, didn't you?
I played the
Trombone?
trombone in like fourth grade for about a month, and then I realized I was really bad, and just stuck to sports.
I don't remember you practicing, so maybe that's why you're really bad.
Exactly.
Okay, well, noted. Kids, if you're listening, practice.
Practice.
It's the only way to be better. Okay. Okay. This is the best tradition. Can you explain the Iowa wave to the people, please? Because this is my favorite tradition in college sports.
Out of all the traditions in college sports, this is probably the most wholesome and, you know, heartwarming. After the first quarter of every Iowa home game, the crowd, the teams, the cheerleaders, everyone turns around and starts waving at the Children's Hospital, which is directly behind the stadium that looks into the stadium. So the floors the children are on, they can see directly into the stadium, see everyone waving after the end of the first quarter. They can wave back. It gives them a little bit of hope and just enjoyment in life as they're, in the hospital suffering through these treatments.
I like this
Hmm.
like when we talk about it, it just gives me chills. I think what a cool thing to lift these kids up, right? We talk about Make-A-Wish and some of those programs that are in place to help kids who are going through some really rough times and how that helps lift their spirits, which helps their care, right? Helps them
Hmm.
fight whatever they're fighting. And so you think about this during college football season, how exciting that really is for those kids. And it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure the it just raises everyone's happiness in the hospital. So it's the most Midwest wholesome thing you could ever do.
I love it. I'm here for wholesomeness. Um, Not wholesome, or the movie itself was not wholesome. The legendary film from 1978, Animal House, was filmed on campus at the University of Oregon and kind of around Eugene. And
Hmm.
so it's a tradition to play the song Shout between the third and fourth quarters of every home game, and fans just go crazy, dancing wildly. That is one of the music traditions that we see. So talk to me about a couple other ones that we should be prepared for, the songs that you're never going to be able to get out of your head after you go to these games.
Yeah, some of the music traditions are the best parts of the game. I guess we'll go out to Virginia Tech. We'll start there. They play Enter Sandman as the team enters the field. I'm sure you've seen, if you haven't seen videos, you need to go look it up. It's almost like you'll get goosebumps watching it. The crowd's jumping, the cheerleaders, everyone's jumping, going crazy as Enter Sandman plays as the team enters the field. There's no better way to start the game. And then if we get into in-game music traditions, we're going to go to Madison, Wisconsin. University of Wisconsin, and they played jump around after the end of the third quarter, heading into the fourth quarter. We're talking seismic activity type jumping, stadium's moving, everyone's going crazy, getting ready for a big fourth quarter up in Madison.
It'd be really interesting to talk to someone who's an engineer, like what the impact of
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their stadium is. Let's say 80,000 people, give or take 20, I don't know. But 20,000 people jumping up and down, because you've all been at concerts and things in arenas where people start jumping and you're like, "Oh, is this place gonna make it?"
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that smart. It seems like that's
Me
got to
neither,
be
I'm
a
just curious.
lot of structuring they have to do to keep an
And
older stadium secure.
afloat. And I
Yes,
mean, in Wisconsin, you're not prepared for earthquakes, so it doesn't have all the crazy stuff that you have in some of the West Coast stadiums prepared for earthquakes. So I'd be intrigued. How many times has that place been revamped? We'll have to look on that. We can do a follow-up.
and any geologists or earthquake specialists, please feel free to reach out.
Please let us know how this all works, because
Yes.
clearly we are science majors. We are very smart at these things. So, okay. Pre-game, in-game, post-game. One of the weirder traditions, in my mind, in the world of sports happens at Auburn,
Mm-hmm.
where they toilet paper their own campus. So they toilet paper the Oaks on Toomer's Corner on campus after a win. That was, I mean, I don't know. You don't toilet paper people you like. So to toilet paper your own campus seems a bit odd. But imagine during COVID, I mean, there were no football games really that people could go to, but toilet papering during COVID, that'd be like a $200,000 bill.
It was almost a crime, I think, to try to do that during COVID. Yeah, I mean, when we're younger, kids may toilet paper their enemies or people they don't like, but Auburn, they toilet paper themselves.
I mean, I think you did that to our house once. Do you remember that?
I don't recall
We
any of this.
we were out toilet papering, I don't know, I was like 14 or something, and you toilet papered our house. So when the policeman drove by the next morning, they saw the toilet paper in our yard and thought our house had also been hit.
I'm gonna plead the fifth, but whoever did that was a very smart person to throw the police off our scent.
Do you know what I learned? That kids nowadays text someone before they go toilet paper, because you just never know what's going to happen if you step on someone's property.
That's
I thought
true.
that was an interesting take.
Times have certainly changed.
Yeah. None of this wear all black and you give people a heads up.
Nope, nope. And I don't know. Have you seen that? Did you know that they had to stop? They made people stop toilet papering for a few years because of the health of the trees.
Makes sense.
So this is actually the first year in quite a while that should Auburn win a big game, maybe they beat their in-state rival Alabama in the Iron Bowl this year. They're
Maybe so.
allowed to go and toilet paper those trees now.
Well, it's been a rough start to the season for Alabama. So if you're going to beat them, it seems like a logical year to do so.
This could be the year, and they can finally celebrate accordingly.
Okay, I'm going to leave with one of my favorites, and I'll let you pick yours from there.
Okay.
Florida State has a sod cemetery. It started in 1962, and they would bring back a chunk of grass from the field after a win. And I mean, it's legitimately like has, gosh, I just lost the name for it. Headstones with the game, the score on it, the year. And so now they have they have rules in place, because clearly since 1962, this has gotten a little bit out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
But the Seminoles must be underdogs, and it must be a victory in a championship or a bowl game to warrant a sod funeral. But I know groundskeepers, and they're pretty particular about their field. So I'm sure they were really pissed when someone came in and cut out a chunk of their sod.
I mean, you have to assume now that if the Seminoles are underdogs or in a championship or a bowl game, those groundskeepers they've got their eyes on anybody from Florida State cutting out a piece of grass.
Got little like lasers on them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that one so interesting, because I'm not really sure that I haven't really seen the why behind it, but it's just such a different tradition that is kind of the opposite end of the Iowa wave. That one's fun, lovely, uplifting. This one's like very morbid, perfect
Yes.
for spooky season right now, but not really quite the give back that it could be.
No, it's Seminole focused, unfortunately. They're
It's true.
very
It's true.
selfishly taking grass.
Well, leave me with one of your final favorites before we log off.
I think one of my favorites, but it's also extremely inconvenient, I feel like, is the Clemson Tigers tradition of spending $2 bills with the team's signature orange tiger paw logo on it. And this dates back to Atlanta. They were, when they were playing Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech discontinued their rivalry game. So those Tiger fans really showed them and somehow find $2 bills and travel to away games with them just to spend all over town.
It's fascinating because when you really think about it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the stats, and someone who's in economic development could fill me in a bit more, but there's a stat that, a dollar spends 5 rotations in a community before it leaves that certain area. So you think you tip your valet $2 in Atlanta, and then that $2 is gonna circulate a couple times, so that they're just everywhere, and they're really just like, they're just scratching, like, at the window, right? Like, they're just slowly just annoying you that they were here, but but it's money, so you gotta have it,
Yep,
so you don't wanna
absolutely.
get rid of it.
Just more of an inconvenience than anything.
Well, I'd be intrigued too.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everything is tap to pay, stadiums don't take cash, that kind of stuff. I'd be really intrigued if how this tradition has changed, how it will continue. So that'll be something really interesting to continue to research. So, Clemson fans, if you're spending your $2 bills, let us know how this goes because I'm really intrigued on how this continues to progress.
I mean, hopefully they're tipping their bartenders at the stadium. That would be ideal. I don't think
That would be ideal.
you can't stamp a Bitcoin or anything. So it's
You
interesting
you can't
to see
stamp
how
your
this
iPhone.
evolves. No, we'll see how this evolves.
Maybe they'll start signing with like a little tiger paw.
Ooh, classy.
There's a thought,
Yeah.
Clemson fans. So, well, anything you want to leave us with before we sign off for this week's podcast?
I think this is just a very interesting podcast because college football is built on generations of traditions, and these have manifested themselves through generations of families. So, probably the best part of college football, these weird and wacky traditions.
Yeah, and no, it's totally true, and it's one of those things like if you know,
Mm-hmm.
then you're prepared. You're coming with your $2 bills. If you're going to a Georgia game, I remember you have to dress up, which is so different from an ASU game where it's hot as could be, so you're in shorts and maybe a polo if you're working. So it's fun to see these traditions, and of course, always a good Google search helps if you're going to some team we didn't mention here today. And if we didn't mention your team, shoot us a note. I'd love to be able to do some research and help you find what that tradition is if you're going to a game. So thanks for hanging in there with me. I'm a little under the weather, so sorry for the lack of pep this week, but we are pulling it all together, and we appreciate you joining us for the college football traditions.
Thank you. Go enjoy your college football season.
Go get 'em, team.